Oh, hello friends. It's hashtag Ask Lauren. All right. So last week I did a question about is it right to kill animals to preserve culture? And I addressed a small segment of the documentary Cooked and talked about Michael Pollan. And that elicited quite the conversation in the comments that I think amongst yourselves you're talking, working it out, coming up with different sides of the argument and whatnot. And so to continue, I'm not going to continue that conversation because I said what I wanted to say, and I right now don't really feel like getting into every aspect of this. A couple of people had questions about bullfighting, the seal hunt. Of course, there are many, many other things beyond what I discussed in last week's episode. I'm not knowledgeable to the degree that I feel comfortable addressing all of these things because I don't really know. I haven't, dove deep on those topics to really understand, what the different sides of things are. So I'm going to leave it for now, and I think that you're all having your own conversations, so that's fine. I do want to address I know it's one negative comment, but it really ticks me off when somebody says, based on what I think, that I'm not vegan, that I'm plant-based, that I can't go around calling myself a vegan. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? I'm vegan, end of story. You can debate all you want. I don't care if you have an opposite opinion of me, but you can't sit there and say that I'm not a vegan. I'm a fucking vegan. We're gonna do all the vegan questions part 4, except for some of them that I don't really want to talk about right now. But there is a lot of other vegan questions that have piled up, and so late last week, I also did a vegan Q&A on Spoon Healthier's Facebook page, which you can go watch. And also I linked it on my Facebook page. It was about an hour long of a vegan Q&A, pretty basic stuff. We didn't get into all this nitty gritty morals, ethics, and politics stuff. And sometimes I don't really like to get into those conversations because basically I'm just putting myself out there for criticism. I can take criticism to a degree, but sometimes I just think, what is the point of me voicing what I think? You already have your opinions, and a lot of you watching are already vegan. And I know a lot of you aren't, but if you're thinking of going vegan and whatever, I just don't want to deter you even more. And sometimes I think by talking about these things and setting myself up as this person, I might deter you from being vegan, because then you start seeing this type of dramatic debate going on in the comments, which sometimes I don't think is necessary. So anyways, so I've searched hashtag Ask Lauren, and let's see what comes up. Okay, Hansy said, what's your opinion on avoiding donating to health organizations and charities that test on animals? For example, Macmillan Cancer Research, etc. I recently had a discussion with someone on this topic, and they made the argument that if you, a vegan, don't agree with how they test the treatment / parts of the treatment or drug, then you should avoid having the treatment or drug if you are in a situation where you may require it. Much like how a vegan disagrees with the treatment and slaughter of animals, they will avoid animal-based products. Remember that whole ice bucket thing that was going around? I chose not to participate in that for various reasons, but one of which was that, ALS, apparently they test all the treatments and drugs on animals, which is an irrelevant procedure in order to figure out how to cure ALS, that they should be testing it on human volunteers or whatever. And I watched a little bit of some people's YouTube responses to that and that argument, and I had to agree with that in a lot of cases it probably doesn't make sense to test on animals, a lot of these treatments, because it doesn't make sense biologically and how it's going to work on us. I don't agree with testing on animals, but I can't say for sure that in every single situation of my life or someone that I care about's life that I'll take that firm stance and say, absolutely not will I help you because there's an animal's life at stake. And you're basically asking me to weigh an animal's life over someone else's life. And in some cases, yes, it is there's no compromise. But in some cases, I think that there is, and I just don't think I can say right now here, and you can hold me accountable to my answer, because I just don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know if I'm going to get cancer, and I don't know what's going to happen. So I kind of get really annoyed when people like to pick apart vegans for every little thing like this. Like, somehow, because you're not vegan and I am vegan, you have every right to ask me these questions, and yet I don't have the right to ask you any questions about your lifestyle choices. And so we're so put out there to just have to be accountable in every way. And sometimes I just get fucking sick of it. Like, let me live my life. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just yelling in a generic sense. Like, you shouldn't just, if you're not vegan and you are curious, fine. But there's a way to ask questions that isn't like offensive. And like, I just don't get it sometimes. Like, some of the questions you're asked as a vegan is like fucking insane. Okay. That question though, I don't know my answer. You know, my friend's family is going through a cancer thing right now, and I donated to her account, which she's raising money for Wellsprings, and Wellsprings gives money as support to families going through cancer. So that money doesn't go to cancer research. That money just goes to help people who are going through the situation who do need financial support. And so to me, that was a good option of donating. Okay, a lot of people ask, what vitamins and supplements do I take? And usually I just sort of avoid this question because I don't really have a regimen around that. Sometimes I take B12. I think I answered this. Sometimes I take B12, a liquid supplement that is a vegan liquid B12 supplement. And I don't take it every day and I don't take it every other day. I sort of just take it when I remember. And throughout 1 year, I usually consume 1.5 bottles about this size. And my levels of B12 have been fine for the 6.5 years that I've been vegan. So that works for me, but that's not necessarily going to work for everybody. Some people have B12 absorption issues, and I don't know. So you have to do your own due diligence and get blood work and do some research. I'm not a supplement expert, so I don't really know. I took iron supplements here and there sometimes, but I haven't been taking them and my iron levels are fine. And as far as calcium goes, I don't really take it, although I have a big bottle of vegan calcium capsules in the cupboard that sometimes I just pop when I remember. I also have a DHA and a omega 369 vegan gel capsule supplement. I have to take it on food or I feel sick, and if I forget and I don't take it on food, I want to vomit. So, you know, part of me is like, well, what's that doing in my body? I don't know. Like, I don't really notice a difference if I take the supplements and if I don't take the supplements. So I'm not really like, I'm not sure where I stand on taking supplements. I mean, if you feel like you need them, go ahead. I think it's a very intuitive thing that you need to listen to. And going vegan does kind of make you more in tune with your body. And I guess I just sort of go with the flow with that. When I feel like I need to take the supplement, I take it. For the most part, I don't really worry about it. But not everyone's body is the same. Emma Jo said, I'm a vegan in high school, and me, as well as my non-vegan but transitioning family, love your recipes. Thank you. Whenever I eat at school, though, many people ask me if I'm on a diet or trying to lose weight because I enjoy eating an abundance of fruits and veggies, along with the occasional hunk of vegan cheesecake. Most of my friends associate health with restriction, bland food, and as temporary means to lose weight rather than a lasting abundant lifestyle. My question for you is, why do you think being healthy comes with such negative connotations today, especially among our younger generation, and do you think this will ever change? I think there are general practices for being biologically healthy, physically healthy in your body. Everybody's different though, and the problem is that everybody has a different perception of what healthy is for others because you're judging, and for yourself. And I wish people would just, I guess I'm in a bit of a angsty mood today, but I wish people would just buzz the fuck off. Like, leave everybody alone. Stop telling everybody what to do all the time. Just do your own thing and do what you think is right. That's how you're supposed to live your life. Keep it to yourself, kind of. You do have to develop a thick skin if you're a vegan, because people are going to ask you, like I said, the dumbest of all questions. And people are going to judge you for your decisions. And it's your kind of role, I think it's your role to just be graceful when it comes to this. I can't really say I really like the way you worded your question, but I don't think it's just like a blanket thing that all of the younger generation thinks that trying to live healthy is a negative thing, like you have an eating disorder or something like that. There's so many nuanced things to health and what's right for your body, and unfortunately, I do think it is quite prevalent for young people to have eating disorders. And I wish that wasn't the case, but it has to do with food marketing and magazines and television and the media and all of these things that are warping our mental health. And you need to empower yourself and take control and not let all of these outside factors influence why you do what you do. It really has to come from you and your higher self. And I'm bringing it to a spiritual place because it really wasn't until I understood that I started having a healthier body image. I never had a terrible body image, but life's fucking too short to worry about if you have like a bit of like fat on your stomach. There's so much information out there, but I just think it's like everyone just has like a warped perception of what is healthy and what isn't. Some people think eating all the meat and no starch and no sugar and no caffeine and eating vegetables and red meat is healthy. And other people think going vegan is healthy. And other people think eating fish and poultry and vegetables is healthy. And other people think eating whole grains and sprouted grains is healthy. And other people think eating grains is the devil. So all these conversations are good to have. I'm inclined to say for most people probably going vegan, it would be beneficial to their health. And other people have just stood by their opinion that they cannot go vegan and that they can't digest legumes and starches and grains and they have to eat meat protein or animal protein and vegetables. And if they're going to have that adamant of an attitude, I'm not going to sit there and debate with them about it. Maybe your body is somehow, still in its old ancient physical state where you are more like a caveman. I honestly have no idea. I'm not a scientist. So if that works for you, be my guest. My whole overarching message is just go vegan, and if you can't go vegan, try to eat a lot more plant-based foods and listen to your body and stop feeling like a piece of shit when you eat food. Like, don't eat your food being like, oh, I shouldn't eat this, I feel guilty, oh, I'm fat, no. It's more of that mental thing. Like, if you have this mental disease over what you're eating and like you're putting that energy into the food you eat, then no matter what you eat, it's going to be bad for you. So yes, if you are plant-based and you have an eating disorder and you're still feeling that, then you have to work on this and this, your heart and your mind and your soul. And you can't worry. At this point, it's not going to matter what you put into your body because you have an issue around eating and food. And I'm really running off on a tangent here. Perhaps I shouldn't have shot this video today. But anyways, I just think that you do what you need to do, Emma. And if you feel like you're being healthy and you're eating a well-balanced diet, which it sounds like you are because you used words like a lasting and abundant lifestyle, so I'm pretty sure you're getting it, don't worry about everybody else. Let them do what they want. It's not your problem. People keep asking about super meat. I answered it in another video, which I'll link below. Okay, this one's funny. Naomi, have you or would you ever eat insects such as grasshoppers or ants? No. Bugs are fucking disgusting and I don't want to eat them. I understand there's a lot of press and media and trendy headlines surrounding how insects are the next sustainable protein source around the world and will cure hunger and all this stuff. That may very well be true. I don't know. But if you're gonna ask me, would I rather eat this or a plate of it, like, some awesome vegan thing or a plate of insects? I'm never gonna eat the insects. I watch Chef's Table and they made like an ant sauce and like there's actually a couple references in that series about people cooking insects and I just cringe. And maybe it tastes good and maybe it's interesting and maybe it is a good source of protein and whatever. And like, I'm sure, and there already are cultures who eat insects. There are certain things I get really passionate about and there are other things that I'm just like, I can leave that alone for now. I don't need to hop on a soapbox about every single issue, and eating insects really isn't one of those issues that I feel like I need to, fight. Yeah, more than half the world is starving and poor and can't afford food. So if they need to eat insects to live, then they should eat insects to live. If that's a temporary solution because we're consuming all the grain to feed all of the animals that we want to eat, not me, but the people who do, that's a problem because there's a whole bunch of food that could be going to other places of the world. It's about survival at the end of the day, and we don't need meat to survive here in where we live. I don't need it to live my day every day. That is the point I'm trying to make. What are your views on zoos and aquariums? Said Morgan Freeman. Well, I really don't think that that's the Morgan Freeman. Well, I went to the zoo my whole life, of course, and I love animals, and I loved seeing all the animals at the zoo. And this was, of course, before I was vegan or even vegetarian. And then even when I was vegetarian, I still went to the zoo. And even as a vegan, I have gone to the zoo early on when I was vegan. And as that evolved, my vegan lifestyle, it obviously became more important for me to not go to the zoo and not support that and try to inform people that I know that they shouldn't take their kids to the zoo. It's really hard because people want to see these animals and people love animals, but they're not making the bigger connection and all of that, which you understand. So of course I don't agree with zoos and aquariums, but there's nothing I can do. That's not true. This is where activism does become very important, I think, and you've seen it working, and we've seen it working with the whole SeaWorld thing and various things like that. And then we've seen all these terrible stories in the media about animals attacking people at the zoo, and then like terrible zoos at the side of the road all over Southern Ontario, where animals are being poorly treated. And I do think that that's an issue that really needs to be discussed more, because I just wonder if before we even stop eating animals, if the actual policy around keeping animals captive will change before we stop eating animals. And the circus thing has stopped, and I think it's something we're going to look back on and go, wow, that took a long time to fucking get it together. But like, I think that is something that we will see change very soon. Then there's conservation places where animals are going extinct, so they're working at preserving those things. And I think that's a little bit of a different story. Oh, also what pisses me off, because I used to live in Vancouver, and I have gone to the Vancouver Aquarium. I went and saw the penguins there, actually, and I was vegan. And this was a few years ago, and I mean, it was fucking awesome to see these penguins, and they look like they're okay, and I don't know where they came from. And it sucks because the Vancouver Aquarium does have a very clever marketing tactic where they talk about, sustainable ocean preservation, blah, 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 and that's why the aquarium exists. Now, I don't think that that's all true. I think it's marketing. Anytime you use the word sustainable, like where it doesn't make sense, you're just trying to sell something. And so what's fucking weird about going to the Vancouver Aquarium, when I realized this a while ago, is that people go to the aquarium and they're like, oh, look at the fish. And the kids are all like, oh, look at the fish. And I'd leave so pissed off because they sell seafood in the goddamn restaurant there. And then sushi's so popular in Vancouver. And literally, families are going to the aquarium and then they're walking down the street and they're going to eat sushi. And it's like so fucked up. Fish are fucking smart. Don't eat them. I think you're about done listening to me, because I'm kind of done listening to myself, and I think I answered some good questions today, and we're already over 20 minutes about. So I'm going to leave you, and thanks so much for watching my videos, and definitely leave your comments and questions below. Use hashtag AskLauren if you have any more questions you'd like me to answer here. I try to do this every Friday, and I promise there'll be a What I Ate in a Day coming up very soon. I'm even doing a collab What I Ate in a Day, so, and maybe a couple of those coming up. So yeah, stay tuned. I may not be posting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday the way I say I was, because things are getting a little busy over here with the cookbook in the works. So anyways, I'll still post when I can, and love you all for watching. Bye.